Hello, this is Maciej Mikos welcoming you to World Talks, where every word matters. EU's national leaders have decided Portugal's António Costa will take over the top European Council job from Charles Michel. What do we know about the soon-to-be next president of the European Council and what challenges lie ahead of him? And to talk about it, we're joined by our first guest this afternoon, Luis Sargento Freitas, doctorate researcher at the Observatório Político in Lisbon, an expert in EU affairs. Good afternoon.
Good day. Thank you for the invitation. Yes, as you correctly mentioned, António Costa was chosen as President of the European Council. I will discuss some of his good aspects, taking into account, of course, his role as Portuguese Prime Minister, and then some of his negative aspects as well, and then his challenges. So his good aspects are, without doubt, his capacity for consensus building. And why do I say this? Because in his role as a prime minister, he was a prime minister in Portugal since 2015 and until April 2024. He served in 3 governments. But his probably or possibly his first government was the most, let's say, transformative, because he was able to end this divorce that existed for decades in Portugal between the center left and the radical left or the extreme left. Because ever since we became a democracy after 74, slowly or shortly after that, this divorce between the center left and the radical left was created. But when he faced the situation of the 2015 elections, he faced a situation that his party ended in second place. So what he did was he had this desire, of course, to become a prime minister, and he found out a democratically and constitutionally accepted way of becoming a prime minister. And what he did was he was indeed the prime minister with a government only of the Socialist Party, but with parliamentary support of the radical left and the extreme left. Because usually when parties want to help smaller parties want to help a bigger party, they usually end up in a coalition. But in this case, it was not a coalition. That's why it's called the contraption government, because it was a government that was only of the Socialist Party, but with parliamentary support, only parliamentary support of the radical left and far left. This is part of his good aspects, which is his capacity for consensus building and for ending divorces and for reuniting groups.
So an experienced and quite effective politician from what we hear, but on a Portuguese political stage. Now, whether he will be able to do the very same on a large, grander scale. Well, let's listen now to the outgoing president of the European Council, Charles Michel, who talked with our very own Sasha Farbach, an exclusive interview for tvpworld about the challenges lying ahead of the president of the European Council. So let's listen now to Charles Michel.
I'm absolutely convinced that because of this war launched by Russia against Ukraine, there is today a new paradigm within the European Union. All of us, we understand much better than before that the economic development is fundamental, this is key, but it's not enough. We need also to act more to guarantee our security, our safety, the safety of our citizens. We understand what's at stake, we understand that we face threats, and these are common threats for all the 27 member states, and we understand that we are stronger when we are united. We have to support Ukraine for as long as it takes, and this is what we are doing. This is what we are doing in the field of financial support, military equipment, and that's why we are working very, very hard together with Thierry Breton, for instance, and the European defense businesses to increase the production capacities. It means that we need the clarity, we need fixed contracts so that the businesses, they understand that we are here on the long haul.
So Charles Michel said we are stronger when we are united. How crucial is the post of the President of the European Council in uniting the whole bloc?
Yes, this role is the role of the European Council and the European Council President is a role of direction and political priorities. It's a role that deals with complex, sensitive issues that cannot be resolved at lower levels. So, if you would mind, just to continue on my argument, I will also focus a little bit on his negative aspects, because he does not have a reformative presence, but the role itself, as I said just now, is not the role of a reformative nature. It's a non-executive role. And there's also one, I would consider a little bit of a negative aspect of him, that is a tendency to focus on positive aspects and sometimes neglecting the negative sides. He tended to do this a bit during his governments. But most importantly are his challenges, which is his most important challenges, which are obtaining equilibrium on enlargement to the East and Southeast Europe. And of course, he's Portuguese, so since the southern EU countries will probably be the ones that will be most impacted by this change, and he will, of course, he cannot defend national interests. He's there to defend the interest of the EU. But still, we have to remember that Bosnia-Herzegovina, Moldova, Ukraine, Serbia, Albania, Turkey, Georgia, Montenegro, and North Macedonia, they're all countries that are at least in the process of becoming EU members. So he will have to manage an equilibrium between not only these countries, but the countries that are already in the EU. He's also a socialist, so he's a center-left politician that will have to make negotiations with governments either from or with the far right, a lot of them with the center right, and also a slightly lesser number that are center left. Of course, at the same time, he will have to negotiate with Kaja Kallas, with Ursula von der Leyen. Kaja Kallas has already said that this is a good team, that she feels hopeful for this team. We also have to remember, as we just saw yesterday between the Trump-Biden debate, that the situation is very, I would say even dangerous, hesitant. Because, and not just in the US, but also in France with the upcoming elections. So he will definitely have his hands full, but I hope that he will stay there at least 2.5 years. If he's voted again, maybe 5 years, but we will have to see.
So, right, so his priorities would be the enlargement of the EU and maintaining this equilibrium, as you call it, within the EU. But you know, there are some hot topics within the EU that differentiate many politicians. And what are his views on the migration crisis hitting the EU?
He's a very, very Europeanist person, and his views on migration tend to follow a certain status quo in the EU. So he was never known for his radical positions. He was always having a somewhat open view on migration, and not going against EU or the general EU rhetoric. So that's why perhaps he was accepted by almost all of the EU leaders for this role. I think with the exception of Giorgia Meloni and not much more. Or she was the one that probably was the most vocal, but that's why he's also appreciated at the EU, because, and even not just him, but as a country, we're very Europeanist. So that's why also it's a little bit of a success for Portuguese diplomacy, as we had Durão Barroso as the president of the European Commission. We still have now António Guterres as the in the United Nations.
Yes.
So So we will see. He will have a lot of problems to face, and I wish him the best. But I know that his position is not going to be easy.
Mm-hmm. Right. Another thing is the so-called Green Deal. What's his position here?
No, he's very pro any kind of reforms that are green in nature. Let's say he, of course, sometimes he during his government, sometimes he even tried to go so much to the green side, to the environmental side, that some people sometimes even revolted because there's also costs to it. Of course, we want to have a green environment. We also have a clean environment. Everybody wants it, but we also have to be careful with costs and how people can adapt to it in a feasible way, because it's not just the government, it's also people, and sometimes even poorer people. So we have to account all of those people in this change, in this greening policies.
Right. Lastly, I'd like to ask you about his relations with Ursula von der Leyen, because we know that this interpersonal relations, though not always in the plain light, are playing a crucial role also in politics and in policies of the European Union. So how would you characterize his relations with the new old president of the European Commission?
I think in the same way. He's very Europeanist. He was always a Europeanist prime minister. Also, us as a country are very pro-Europeanist. So I believe that there has been said that the relationship was good in these last years, and I see no reason why it shouldn't continue that way. I believe that they seem to have a good relationship, not just him and Ursula von der Leyen, but also with Kaja Kallas. So I believe they will be a good team. Let's just hope that they face up well to the challenges that they have.
All we need to wait for now is the final acceptance from the European Parliament. Luis Sargento Freitas, doctoral researcher at Observatório Político in Lisbon, expert in European affairs, was our guest this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for watching. That is all for now, and stay with us for much more here on TVP World.